All new at 6, lost in the Bermuda Triangle. At least that's what people thought happened to a ship that just in the 1920s vanished.
There's a stretch of Texas land where strange lights appear, vehicles vanish, and stories never add up. Locals whisper about lost time, eerie crashes, and GPS failures. It's not just myth, it's becoming legend. Texas's Bermuda Triangle is real to many, and the truth behind it is far darker than expected. Texas's version of the Bermuda Triangle is real, a land of vanishing mysteries. We've all heard of the Bermuda Triangle, that infamous stretch of ocean where ships and planes supposedly vanish into thin air. But now, social media, local legends, and viral videos are pointing to something eerily similar happening on land. And it's right here in Texas. Known unofficially as the Texas Bermuda Triangle, this idea doesn't refer to one exact location, but rather to a growing number of mysterious incidents happening in different regions of the state. Strange crashes, unexplained disappearances, vehicles found abandoned without a trace of their occupants. These events have fueled a wave of online speculation. One such area that often gets labeled this way is a stretch of Interstate 35, particularly between Dallas, Waco, and Austin. Others point to vast, desolate highways cutting through West Texas, where strange lights and missing persons cases seem to overlap. Unlike the Atlantic version, which has been studied and debunked repeatedly by scientists, the Texas Triangle exists more in the realm of public fear and internet folklore. Yet it continues to gain attention for one reason: the stories just won't stop. It's not about proving the supernatural, one retired Texas trooper said. It's about explaining why we see patterns no one can make sense of. And that's the hook. Whether those patterns are real or imagined, people keep reporting them, and with each retelling, the legend grows. The myth of the triangle, what the Atlantic Bermuda Triangle really is. Before diving deeper into Texas's version, it's important to understand the original myth. The Bermuda Triangle refers to a loosely defined area in the North Atlantic between Florida. Since the early 1900s, more than 50 ships and 20 aircraft have reportedly vanished there without clear explanation. Public fascination exploded in the 1960s and 70s, thanks to books, tabloid headlines, and documentaries suggesting everything from magnetic anomalies to UFOs and time warps. But official investigations have repeatedly debunked these theories. The U.S. Coast Guard and NOAA state there is no evidence of abnormal disappearances, just typical maritime dangers, often exaggerated or misreported. So why does the myth persist? Because the term triangle has become cultural shorthand for mystery, danger, and the unexplained. It taps into something emotional, our fear of vanishing without a trace. And now that same emotional weight is being applied to certain places in Texas. The Bermuda Triangle is more psychological than geographical, said oceanographer Dr. David Kring. It's a story we keep telling because it leaves a mark. This context helps frame the Texas version not as a proven phenomenon, but as a narrative lens, a way people make sense of chaos and fear on land, just as they once did at sea. Texas rumors, the supposed triangle on Lone Star roads. Across Texas, certain roads have developed a dark reputation, not from official reports, but from online buzz and personal anecdotes. TikToks and Reels claim that stretches of I-35E, parts of Highway 281, and remote roads near Marfa form a kind of terrestrial Bermuda Triangle. These areas are said to have higher accident rates, vanishing cars, and even time anomalies. But what's really happening? Police say most of these zones don't have unusually high fatality rates. What they do have is bad road design, driver fatigue, and high speeds. For example, that stretch of I-35E, often called a triangle, it's busy, poorly lit in some areas, and riddled with construction zones. That said, perception matters. When multiple incidents occur in the same area, people start to connect the dots, even if the data doesn't. Human brains are wired to spot patterns, even where none exist. People don't want coincidence, said traffic analyst Linda Ortiz. They want a reason, a villain. A ghost story. The Texas Triangle label thrives not because of facts, but because of fear, uncertainty, and fascination. The legend is self-sustaining. Every new crash or disappearance becomes proof, even when the cause is mundane. Strange phenomena in Texas beyond roads. The mystery doesn't stop at highways. Texas is home to natural phenomena that defy easy explanation. Most famously, the Marfa Lights. These glowing orbs appear in the desert at night and have been reported since the 1880s. Some scientists explain them as mirages, atmospheric gases, or refracted headlights, but they continue to puzzle observers. People have filmed them, followed them, and sworn they behaved in ways technology can't replicate. Elsewhere, locals talk about electronic devices glitching in certain areas, strange radio silence, and missing time experiences. All classic signs in folklore tied to triangle myths. These reports build up a cultural identity around Texas as a place where strange things happen. And while science has offered explanations for most of them, not everyone buys in. "I don't care what they say," said one Marfa resident. "You stand out there at night and you feel it. Something's off." It's in these emotional impressions, not raw data, that the idea of a Texas Triangle thrives. It's about what people feel, what they fear, and what they can't explain. Stories of missing people, separating facts from fiction. A viral claim once suggested that thousands of people had gone missing in the so-called Texas Triangle. But according to law enforcement databases and FBI statistics, there's no evidence to support this. In fact, missing persons rates in Texas are proportionate to the state's population and not clustered into any particular triangle zone. So where do these stories come from? Many disappearances do happen, but they are often explained by mental health crises, runaways, or criminal activity. The triangle theory tends to bundle unrelated cases into a single dramatic narrative, ignoring real context. Another factor is media amplification. When a disappearance is labeled mysterious, it spreads faster online, especially if the location already has a spooky reputation. But that doesn't make the case paranormal. Creepy stories spread better than crime statistics, said criminologist Dr. Anita Wallace. That's just how the internet works. At its core, the Texas Triangle legend reveals more about our need for meaning than about any actual mystery. It's not that people are vanishing without a trace. It's that we're drawn to stories that make the ordinary feel extraordinary. Natural explanations versus paranormal theories. When strange events pile up, whether it's vanishing vehicles, unexplained lights, or GPS failures, it's tempting to leap to the supernatural. And Texas's so-called Bermuda Triangle has drawn all the usual suspects: UFOs, magnetic anomalies, and interdimensional rifts. But the real story usually comes down to physics, weather, and biology. Just like the Atlantic Triangle, where science has pointed to rogue waves, compass variation, and pilot error, Texas's desert and highways are shaped by natural forces. The Marfa Lights, for instance, have been studied by atmospheric scientists who say they likely result from temperature inversions, layers of warm and cold air bending light in strange ways. Road disappearances? Often, it's people going off-road in extreme heat or at night where visibility is low and cell service can vanish for miles. Still, the paranormal stories persist. Why? Because they offer narrative certainty. A supernatural cause wraps up chaos with a clear answer, even if it's fiction. We fear what we don't understand, so we invent what feels bigger than us, said psychology professor Dr. Lena Morris. And once those stories are shared widely, they gain traction regardless of evidence. Real danger zones in Texas, hard science, not mystery. The truth is, Texas does have danger zones, but they're not mystical. They're statistical. Certain stretches of highway are infamous for crashes. The I-35 corridor, US 285 through oil country, and parts of Loop 1604 near San Antonio have high fatality rates, but not because of anomalies. It's about driver behavior, road design, and volume of traffic. Similarly, flood-prone areas, especially in central Texas, are deadly because of fast-forming storms and poor drainage, not curses or strange energy fields. By looking at real data from the Texas Department of Transportation, patterns emerge that point to infrastructure problems, drunk driving, and speeding, not paranormal causes. Still, the myth overshadows the truth. We focus on the ghost stories, not the potholes, said emergency responder Carlos Vega, who works in the hill country, but one's a lot more dangerous. This matters because mislabeling real hazards as mysteries can delay real solutions. How legends grow, from coincidence to conspiracy. One of the most important lessons from triangle myths, whether in the Atlantic or the American Southwest, is how they grow. It starts with a few eerie incidents, at a lack of explanation, and a few viral posts, and soon coincidences turn into conspiracies. In Texas, once the triangle idea caught fire online, unrelated events got pulled into the same orbit. A missing hiker in Big Bend, a car crash near Austin, a power outage in a rural town. Each added fuel to the legend, even if none were connected. Platforms like TikTok and YouTube amplify these patterns. Creators link dots on maps, give dramatic narration, and let the algorithms do the rest. The story becomes bigger than the facts, said digital myth researcher Jared Elkins. It doesn't need proof, just clicks. This doesn't mean the stories aren't real. Many are. But grouping them under one mystery zone distorts what actually happened and why. Understanding this helps us separate folklore from fact and why the Texas Triangle became internet famous despite shaky evidence. Why people want to believe in a Texas Bermuda Triangle. The desire to believe in a Texas Triangle isn't grounded in logic. It's not about data points or verified reports. It's about something far more powerful, an emotional yearning for mystery, for wonder, and for stories that remind us just how much of the world still feels unknown. We're drawn to the idea that maybe, just maybe, there are still places where the rules don't apply, where something ancient, unexplainable, or even supernatural waits in the dust. And it's not just conspiracy theorists or thrill seekers. Even the most grounded, logical minds find themselves drawn to tales that poke holes in certainty. A dense fog that moves in without warning, a GPS that leads nowhere and refuses to recalculate, a flickering orb of light that hovers on a horizon where nothing should be. These aren't just unusual events. They become deeply personal moments, experiences that leave a psychological fingerprint. Texas, more than almost anywhere else in America, seems built for these kinds of stories. The scale of the land, the miles of empty highway, the silence of the desert, the endless sky, all create an environment where the mind fills in the gaps. There's something about the stillness and size that invites imagination, especially when you're alone with only headlights cutting through the dark. There's something about Texas, said cultural historian Maya Trujillo. It feels ancient and empty. It leaves space for stories. This space, both physical and emotional, is the fuel that keeps the legend alive. People don't just see strange things out there, they feel them. That unsettling sensation when the road curves just slightly too much, or when your phone loses signal in the middle of nowhere, or when the sky shifts color just before nightfall. All of it builds a kind of emotional residue. In those moments, a malfunction becomes a mystery, and a coincidence becomes a sign. Believing in the Texas Triangle gives people a narrative tool to explain the unexplainable. It allows people to share stories, to connect across generations and cultures, to pass down legends like family recipes. These tales are told at campfires, truck stops, Reddit threads, and late-night radio shows. It becomes part of the cultural DNA, not because it's provable, but because it feels true. And in a time where we're overwhelmed by information, updates, and algorithms, these myths provide space. Space to wonder, space to speculate, space to step away from hard facts and dwell in possibility. They aren't rigid, they're flexible, constantly evolving with each retelling. Myths thrive where facts fall short, said media analyst Jordan Klein. They offer answers when data just creates more questions. Even without hard evidence, the Texas Triangle remains compelling because it satisfies a basic human need to feel connected to something bigger, something unseen, something just out of reach. It speaks to our fear of the unknown, but also our hope that mystery still exists in a world that feels increasingly mapped and measured. And that's why the triangle myth endures. It's not about the proof we don't have. It's about the questions we can't stop asking. And the feeling that maybe, somewhere out there in the Texas dusk, the answers are just waiting to appear. The real truth, mysterious or misunderstood. So is Texas's Bermuda Triangle real? In short, no. Not in the way the legends suggest. There is no defined triangle on any map, no scientific evidence of strange forces at play, and no verified pattern of unexplained vanishings that defy logic or physics. Most of the incidents tied to the myth, car accidents, disappearances, electronic glitches, are real events, yes, but they're isolated, context-specific, and often rooted in natural causes or human behavior. There is no secret zone where GPS signals vanish into a void, no magnetic disturbance swallowing trucks whole, and no historical record of mass disappearances that can't be explained. No blackouts in satellite data, no government redacted reports. There's no anomaly here, just a combination of fear, coincidence, and social media acceleration, said forensic investigator Dr. Ruben Castor. But that doesn't mean these stories don't matter. Every missing person, every crash, every haunting account of strange lights in the desert, these are real lives, real traumas, and real mysteries worth respecting. What the triangle myth often does is flatten these stories into a single, easy explanation. One that entertains, but also distracts. The danger in embracing the supernatural over the factual is that we begin to oversimplify complex issues. Roadway engineering flaws, gaps in emergency response, rural isolation, and even mental health crises are reduced to weird stuff happens here. And that can delay real solutions, or worse, encourage apathy. Mysteries don't need magic to matter, said journalist Amy Vickers, who has covered Texas folklore and urban legends for over 30 years. Sometimes what's truly mysterious is how quickly we turn tragedy into mythology, instead of trying to understand it. In the age of algorithms, where the most dramatic version of a story gets the most attention, the Texas Triangle persists because it gives people a name for the randomness they fear. It offers structure in a world that feels increasingly chaotic, a comforting lie wrapped in mystery. And yet, the enduring power of these legends tells us something important. People want wonder. They want stories that challenge the boundaries of reality. And when there's just enough coincidence to spark curiosity, our minds do the rest. In the end, the real danger isn't the triangle. It's mistaking pattern for proof, myth for map, and story for science. And in a world driven by viral content and digital folklore, that's a mystery we urgently need to understand. The Texas Triangle may not defy science, but it proves something deeper. That fear, folklore, and coincidence can shape reality. While the data may not support the legend, the stories won't stop. And in a world craving mystery, that might be the most powerful and unsettling truth of all.